Okay, so this is an answer to a question I received from one of the guys I'm in contact with. He failed his first selection. He's going to retry it this spring. He's very motivated. And he asked me, let me double check what he asked. So his question was, what is the biggest challenge you had in selection or on a course that you could have prepared for better? All right. So there's two things. Um, the one thing that was a an actual challenge that I had was it was the last day of an evaluation that went on for 50 hours, and we were laying on the beach, basically doing nothing at the moment, just thinking, which can always be dangerous because as long as you're busy, you don't have time to think about your situation. And I knew that when the sun would come up on the second day, I would make it to the end because the night is the worst time. The day is fairly easy, much easier than the night. So it got light while we were laying on the beach, and I was waiting to see the sun. I was expecting to see the sun. And it was so cloudy that you couldn't see the sun at all. So while it got lighter and lighter, I felt the sun had cheated me because I was waiting for it, and it was supposed to be basically my success marker that I had made it, and it didn't show up. So whether that on a subconscious level kind of screwed me up, or for whatever reason, I got pretty pissed with the sun and the whole situation. Nothing I could do about it, but I still felt bad. On top of that came that we didn't do anything at that time. So we weren't terribly cold, we weren't terribly wet. I wasn't terribly tired or hurting or injured or anything. It was just that I was laying there and I was waiting for the sun to come up, and it didn't. So I felt very disappointed, and it felt like there was no reason to keep going because I tried to tell myself that okay, I made it to the next morning, even though I didn't have the proof I was waiting for. So I could quit now, and since I had basically made it, it wouldn't matter anymore. Which, if you listen to it later on, is like really stupid because this is something that will always be haunting you for the rest of your life. And your argument was that you wouldn't want to waste another 8 hours just not doing anything challenging because at the moment we weren't. Um, I kind of got through because we started doing stuff again. But if I would have been laying there for much longer and just had the time to, you know, let these thoughts fester, it could have gone really bad. But it didn't. Um, so that was one of the biggest challenges, and I think as a preparation for that, you just have to keep in mind why you are there. You know, it's a limited amount of what the thing is, you never know what kind of questions are going to come up at a point in time where you have time to think unless you've been through those situations before. So, the best thing obvious is getting experience in these kinds of situations, getting yourself into enough situations that you experience different emotions when you're tired, when you're hungry, and so on. And there's a few things you can do to get through these situations. So the Stoics always say, like, look at the situation and see, can you change the situation, yes or no? And if you can't, then stop complaining about it and just make the best of it and just go with it. Now, however, I try to actively do something about the situation because you can always change the situation by quitting. So that advice is like, it sounds pretty good when you're like sitting at home, but when you're in the situation, you're trying to find ways to argue with to misinterpret the meaning. And the meaning is not like, if you can't change the situation, like you can always change the situation by, quitting. And that's obviously not the point. Now, how could I have been better prepared for that situation? Everybody has a reason. So they always tell you that you need to have a why. So why are you doing selection? Why do you get yourself in this hard situation that's where you're going to be suffering? And they always tell you like make something meaningful, find something meaningful. And a lot of times I think people, when you listen to people, why are they doing things, especially people that quit afterwards, um, like a lot of times you hear like from fathers, they want to make their children proud. They want to, you know, show the children that they can achieve anything and that their dad's a good guy and that look how the cool things that your dad suffered through, you know, because he loves you or because he wants you to look up to him, anything like that. But the problem is if you don't like, there are two kinds of people. There are the kinds of people where that is actually true, and then it will help them immensely if they realize this is why they're doing it. But these guys don't need a coach telling them that they need to find a why because they have one. Now, the other kind of people is the kind of people that don't have a why, and now they are desperately trying to find one, and then they get this idea thrown to them like, well, it has to be something great, like you want to defend your country or you want to like defend your family or you want to look good in front of your kids, whatever. And that is not going to work because it's not really why you're there. And you may realize that your why is actually not strong enough. You have a really weak why. It's like, oh, I want to be like, in the special forces. I want to wear a whatever colored beret. I want to look good, in front of my friends. I get all the girls when I'm in that unit or whatever. I can brag. And obviously, those things will fall apart once you really start to suffer. Now, for me, I do these things because I like to challenge myself. And anything can be a challenge. And if you realize that anything can be a challenge that you need to overcome, then anything becomes just like a test for you that you want to pass. So even at that moment where we're not actively doing anything, they almost got me to quit because we weren't doing anything and I started to think. And I didn't realize that that was a challenge. The challenge was just to like fucking lay in the sand, don't do anything, and, be patient until you get the next task. That is a challenge in and of itself. And if I would have realized that this is actually a challenge, I would have probably enjoyed it. I would be like, okay, I can show you how long I can lay in that fucking sand. I don't need the sun to come up. I don't need, something to keep me busy. I'm perfectly happy and fine just laying in the sand doing nothing for hours. But at that time I didn't because I hadn't thought that through, and that was the first time I was actually in a situation like that. The second thing I wanted to talk about, what used to fuck me up a lot, is there's a, it's getting hurt. I'm not saying injured. So let me put it this way. There's three levels to injuries. The level number one is overuse injuries. Blisters, skin rubbed raw, bruises where your kid hits you, all these things, if you're going for days and weeks at a really hard pace, all these things will add up. So I always used to think that, oh shit, like I'm getting blisters, I'm not prepared enough. Like I have the wrong kit. If I'm getting bruises, like, oh, my pants aren't tight enough because the sand is now inside my pants and it's rubbing my skin raw. So I was always telling myself I must be doing things wrong and I'm the only one that has these problems and no one else has them, which is completely wrong. Everyone has the same problems, and actually a lot of these like events are geared towards making you suffer because no one cares if you're a cool guy when you're like well fed, the sun is shining, and all your equipment fits perfectly. Okay? That's not the point of selection. Selection wants to select the people that can even go, keep going when all these things are falling to bits, when your skin is rubbed raw, when you have blisters and you still know you have to walk and walk and walk with your backpack and you don't even know for how long. But it's still days and days and days until selection ends. So that's how you test people if they can like stick it out when the shit hits the fan for real. And when you realize that suffering and getting hurt is part of the process, like for me, once I realized that, I was fine with it. I can live with blisters. I can live with my skin getting rubbed raw. I can even live with having permanent nerve damage on the skin for it, getting rubbed raw for days and days and weeks without having a chance to properly heal. That's all fine as long as you know why you're doing it. At least for me it is. But it was not fine at all as long as I was thinking like I must be doing something wrong, because I was constantly focusing on that issue, on the pain, and trying to, fix the position of my kid, fix the position of my pants. And it was just horrible because I was always focused on the wrong stuff, on stuff that was deliberately like engineered in a way so that you couldn't make it perfect, you couldn't make it go away. Does that mean you can do things wrong with your foot or boot preparation or your kit? Of course you can, and then you'll make it much worse. But the point I'm trying to tell you is you have to be okay, and you have to understand that these things will happen and they are fine. As long as you decide beforehand that you're going to be fine with it, it's not going to be a problem for you. Not as much as if you're worrying if you're doing things wrong and if this is all supposed to be that way and if you're the only one experiencing that. The second level of injury is an actual injury, like a misstep where you like twist your ankle, but you can still walk, nothing's broken. You probably tore off like a ligament. It's nothing that can be fixed right away, okay? On top of that, it's not going to get much worse. It's not going to cause a permanent disability. It's going to be very uncomfortable. It's going to be very painful, but you can still keep going, okay? These things happen. If these things happen, you need to understand that the difference between an injury like this and a serious injury, which is the third level. On the second level, you can still keep going, okay? On the third level, a serious injury is an injury that might get aggravated if you keep going, and that aggravating that injury may cause a permanent disability or a permanent negative effect on your general health. So, for example, you fall down and you snap something in your back. You can still walk, you can still move everything, but you kind of felt that something is wrong with your back. Now, you could keep going and it might be fine, but there's a pretty good chance that it will get worse. And if those kind of injuries get worse, you could really end up with like a permanent disability. And then in that case, that's not worth it. And you should get that looked at right away. But the level one, and even the level one is to be expected, you will get that. Okay, fact. Very, very few people make it out of a selection event with their feet intact. Okay. Level two, that may happen. Good preparation will prevent quite a lot of those accidents. But, if you're just not lucky and you twist your ankle, fucking keep going. Because it will get worse. You will be in pain, and if the medics see that, they will have you evaluated and they may take you out or not. Again, if it's a level 3 injury or you suspect it to be one, by all means be careful, fucking get evaluated and see what's happening. Yeah, so those were my answers to that question. And if anyone else has any questions that I can answer, just send me an email, hit me up on Instagram. I'm always happy to help out, and that kind of gives me an idea what to talk about and what you guys want to know. All right, take care. See you soon.